This is me. They call me Oak. I'm a mountain. Well, really a volcano, or at least a former volcano. I've been around here as long as there's been here to be around. And for most of that time, I've had a glacier on my back. I am not handsome like Eiríksjökull and Þórisjökull, my neighbors over there. So the first humans, the Vikings, scarcely put me in their books. They decided that me and my fellow mountain skjaldbreiður over there were parts of a dead troll, which is ridiculous. So humans, yeah, I have issues with them. They get obsessed about strange things. Recently they have been getting very worked up about glaciers. So these two foreigners came to visit last year to talk to Icelanders about how they felt about losing their glaciers. They call themselves anthropologists, which I find kind of hilarious. You know, with humans, even when they're talking about glaciers, it's still all about them.
It would be great if you could start by saying maybe your name.
Hi, I'm Björt Ólafsdóttir. I'm the Ministry for Environment and Natural Resources here in Iceland.
So we're really glad to be talking to you. And we have a huge question, which is, do glaciers matter?
Yes, they certainly do. They matter a great deal for us. Just to describe it as water or as snow or ice isn't enough, I think. Maybe I don't have words to capture what it is all at the same time.
Do you know this little glacier called Ok?
Yeah, I know it. I learned about it when I was little in school. I always remember because we learned that it was the smallest glacier and with a funny name for us Icelanders.
Did you ever get to visit there?
No, but I didn't go up to the glacier. Obviously, it was really small. But I went horseback riding a lot with my family on the highlands in Iceland. So I was around it.
Where are you from?
Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
Canada, yeah.
What do you think of glaciers?
Whoa. We saw them from a distance only. Oh, fabulous. They produce icebergs.
The enormity, pretty cool. Yeah.
Detroit, Michigan.
What do you think about glaciers?
Glaciers. We need them.
Well, we've done a lot of research on it. We're very sad that they're like receding. And we actually just drove around the Ring Road and visited a few glaciers also. So
that's the primary focus of this trip.
yes.
Glaciers, I think they are exciting. It's not many of them, so you have to travel somewhat to get to one, but it's definitely worth the trip.
So you're from Iceland. What do you think of glaciers?
Well, it's been a great inspiration for my art, so I use them a lot in my artwork. So yeah, I love glaciers. I'm worried about them melting.
I'm from Iceland, here in Reykjavík.
What do you think about glaciers?
What do I think about glaciers? I think they're magnificent.
Where are you from?
I'm from Reykjavík.
What do you think of glaciers?
I like them, yes.
Iceland.
What do you think about glaciers?
I am very fond of glaciers, actually. We have quite a few of them here in Iceland, and they're a huge part of the country's personality.
From the beginning of the struggle for national independence in the 19th century up until, well after the middle of the 20th century, the focus in everything that had to do with national identity was always on history, on literature, on language. And this is slowly changing as nature, the wilderness and the glaciers are taking over as that which makes one Icelandic. We had a conference on glaciers and Icelandic literature and culture in Howe in the east a few weeks ago. And there we met a family that has now built up a fantastically beautiful restaurant and tourist site around the glacier, which is diminishing, which is vanishing basically. And there, when you talk to them, there were 2 generations, and they of course remembered 3 or 4, and you could basically hear from them. The farmer that lives there now, he says that when he's tired, when he's confused, when he has to sort of connect himself to reality again, he goes to the glacier and in a way meditates or gets energy from the glacier, which his grandfather would probably never have done.
So I went with one group on this glacier, and then I went also to some of these outlets here on Vatnajökull. So I went on these guided tours. What I think everyone said that I spoke to was that they felt so small. And this awareness of, if you take one wrong step and you end up inside the glacier and you are never coming back, and it can just being aware of this hundreds and hundreds of meters of ice, underneath your feet, and the story of how that came to be in such a long time. I remember one person saying, what has the glacier seen? Because it's been there for such a long time. It was kind of like almost experiencing it as a living being, as a person who has seen things and experienced things. I just wanted to kind of get lost, just this big, big whiteness.
Okjökull í samnefndu fjalli í Borgarfirði hefur fram til þessa verið talinn einn minnsti jökull landsins og á gömlum landakortum sést að hann hefur verið yfir 15 ferkilometrar á stærð. En jökullin verður ekki jökull nema stundarkorn í viðbót, því Oddur Sigurðsson, jöklafræðingur, á leiðinu upp á okið til að gefa út dánarvottorð fyrir jökullin. Allavega svo fremi sem grunnur Odds ástand jökulsins reynist réttur.
Have you heard of a glacier called Okjökull? It's spelled OK-Jökull?
I might have, but I may not have remembered how to spell it or what the word sounds like.
No.
Have you heard of a glacier called Okjökull?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Have you heard of a glacier called Ok?
No. What's that about?
Have you heard of a glacier called Okjökull? It's spelled OK-Jökull?
No, I'm sorry.
No? Have you heard of a glacier called OK Glacier?
Yes, I have.
What do you know about it?
Not so much. I think it's fairly small, located centrally in Iceland, and it's, as most other glaciers, it's melting, it's getting smaller and smaller, so we'll see how long it lasts.
Have you heard of a glacier called Ok? It's spelled OK Glacier?
Ok, yes.
How do you know about Ok?
It's because it's in the west, right? Yeah, it's because I'm from Borgarfjörður, west, so.
Great, thank you so much.
It's down here. Like you're asking, glaciers, nobody is going here, tourists, if you talk mainstream tourists. Here it's just snowmobiling on Langjökull, and here down in Mýrdalsjökull, Sólheimajökull, here, and also in Skaftafell in the national park.
What if we wanted to get a glacier tour of Okjökull?
Okjökull? Why would you want to go there?
Well, we've heard about it. Where is it?
You've heard about it? Well, I'm going to have to plead the fifth and ask you where it is.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not really well informed on this drawing. Where is it?
Yeah, okay.
Has anyone ever asked to go on Okjökull before?
Only yourself.
This guy, Mr. Funny Man, you can tell he's got an attitude. I'm not some random... I have my name on all the human maps, guy.
It's like asking about a random point somewhere in the map, yes. But of course people are visiting this glacier much more in this one because they're much more accessible, whereas this year is not so. Are you doing your focus on this glacier? Yeah. Yes.
Þúsundir sála með ólíka draumar að gengin er eins Sameiginlegt þó að hver og einn treystir og smegin og reik Þarf ekki neitt með dreymir meir, töltir Eitthvað sem veitir frið og ró og glemurstu leið Hvað það fucking frétta bra En fann á keimsendi, veit ekki Sendi til annarkvort SMS eða reitmerki Náttúru skáld sem að ykkur steypu Hangi með ómögum bitum og bleiðum Skerið þið svo gott sem fullkominn heimi svo lengi sem ég haga mér þið svo heiðull Seiðandi kryddpíur og bílar Kaupið með minningar á tíkar Lífið þið titlingur og píkar Snælandi snild í augum ríkar Guðblessi biblíur og íhald Hef ekki tíma til að flýja Ég að keep it real og chilla
Svona ótrúlega flottir yfirtónar sem koma. Og svo Evelyn Glenny, hún með hérna. Og svo kemur hérna á móti. Þannig það svona möguleikarnir með Jú, þetta eru gamlir steinarnir sem voru náttúrulega sem forfeður minni gerðu. Og svo sprungi frosti, en þessi sjá hvað letrið er ótrúlega fallegt. Þetta er svo sjá að geta séð minni kirkju ennþá merkilegri stein sem frá 1650. Grímur Jónsson, sem var prestur á undan sér að Snorra á Húsafelli. Og þetta það var Þorsteinn sonur hans sem gerði þennan stein. Svo kemur Björk af svellinu.
That's good. Looks just like a on ice.
Ice. Hérna sjáum við fjallarhringinn á. Svo kemur hérna Geitlandsjökull. Svo farum við lengra. Og þetta er Eiríksjökull hérna á endanum.
Hvar er okið?
Já, að frammynda okinu, ég skal finna okið.
No, there's another picture.
Já, ég var með okinu.
Look, Carter. I'm there. Little to the left. No, to the right. Ah. No, you just passed me again. Nope. Wait. Come on. Please.
Svo fallegur hvað það passar vel inn í og það er eins prelúdía í C-dur som Bach.
komið hérna. This guy was in Game of Thrones, this black and white one.
Oh, that one? Okay.
My name is Snorri Jóhannesson, and I am a sheep farmer and live at Augastaðir, that is a little bit.
My name is Jóhanna Þorvaldsdóttir, and I'm a goat farmer and live here at Howe. And I'm a nurse too. We have both this meaning from other people that we are a little bit strange.
When did you first learn about Ock?
I never learned anything about it in childhood. It was just part of where we get the sheep. We have to go there to get the sheep down. And after I bought this farm, it is my hunting area.
So you own part of Ock? Part of the mountain is part of your farm?
Yeah. It's part of my farm.
So what is Ock's reputation? Like if you had to say, if it were a character, how would you describe it? What's its reputation in the neighborhood?
We don't think as mountain as a character. They are, a problem because we have to overcome them when we are getting the sheep. But we are lucky here. I was in the Westfjord today, and there is a mountain. But here is almost it is just a hill.
It's a little hill.
Yeah, but
For me,
some of
it's
them high.
different about the use of the Ock, because I learned from my father to say if it was how the weather will be tomorrow by looking at the sun on Ock.
Yeah.
If the sun is setting down in the evening, if it's shining on Ock, you can be sure you have good weather tomorrow. And that's really is like that.
Wow.
So Ock is for me a weather forecast.
That's great.
So I love this mountain.
Here you see Ock.
Okay.
That's here.
That's it?
Yeah.
It looks really spectacular from here, doesn't it?
I like it very much. And where the sun is shining on now, it normally get red in the evenings if it's good weather.
Wow.
So it's,
So the snow turns red, or the light is red?
yeah, it turns a little bit orange red when the sun is setting. When the rain I was talking about comes, it comes by this end of the hill. So, yeah, I think this is very important weather forecast for me.
Yeah, wow. And it's right outside your door, so
Yeah.
it's perfect.
It is. I would miss it.
Hvaða kröfur þurfa jöklar að uppfylla til að geta talist fullgildir jöklar?
Það í fyrsta lagi að vera nógu þykkir til þess að hníga undan eigin fargi og til þess þurfa þeir að vera 40-50 metrar þykkir. Og það jökull gjörbreytir eðli við það að ná þessu marki. Hann fer að skríða, hann fer að rjúfa landið undir sér miklu hraðar og það kemur skolugt vatn undan honum og því nær þessi jökull alls ekki.
Þannig að það má segja að sko ekki núma hans séu lítið, það allt líf úr honum ef svo má orðið komast.
Já, hann hreyfist ekki lengur og þess vegna þetta dauður ís sem kallað gjarnan. Og mér finnst þetta dálítið sögulegt fyrir það að þetta fyrsti nafnkunni jökull á Íslandi sem að hættir að standa undir því nafni.
So back to your hike up to the top of Ock.
Yes.
So you went up there with the television crew and you did an interview and you said that you announced the death. Why do you think it's important to point that out?
It's part of the history of the glaciers. Icelanders are very fond of history, of everything. And the history of glaciers is very closely knitted with the lives of Icelanders.
So if you were the person who was leading the ceremony, what words would you say about the death of Ock?
Well, a good friend has left us. And I did care about it. It is not just like brushing off something off your coat or something like that. It has some feeling.
So it's sad.
It is in a way sad, but looking at glaciers as a scientist, I really cannot be sad. There has been enormous change, of course, through geological times in the Earth. There was no Atlantic Ocean 100 million years ago. But we, mankind, can affect these changes for some time.
How do you think Auk Mountain feels about all this?
It couldn't care less.
I thought something felt different up there. Lighter, maybe. Apparently the humans don't think I actually have a glacier anymore. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, I still feel like me, but that ice has been with me for a very, very long time.
Yeah, my name is Hallgrímur Ámundarsson. I'm a linguist here at the Árni Magnússon Institute, where I specialize in place names.
Can you tell us the story of Auk?
Well, it's a very small glacier, and it doesn't appear many times in the literature, but it gets a one mention in one of the younger sagas. They're telling about a guy who rode his horse from the south of Iceland to the western side of Iceland, and he just passed by this mountain Auk on his way. That's all. But the special thing with Auk is, and that has only come to light in recent years, is when the glacier melted, is that on the top of the mountain in the crater, the mountain seems to be writing its own name, and that's pretty unusual for a mountain, because the crater itself is shaped like an O, and inside this O is a C. It resembles very much the copyright symbol, as you can see. And in the medieval times, in the Icelandic manuscripts, the name would more often than not be written OC than OK as it is in the modern spelling.
See, this shows you once again just what mountains are capable of. Even small mountains. I even write quite a lot of poetry when things are quiet.
It's been a farm for at least 800 years. Wow. That's what we know. What we see here, the people were born in Skorradalur, in this valley, and they also died in this valley.
I see.
So the world wasn't bigger than that, actually.
Right.
And when I was a kid, we used to drive on the lake by car, because it was frozen enough. Of course, the cars were a little bit lighter than today. They're not many tons.
Yeah.
But from Christmas time until spring, for about 3 months maybe, we could use the lake as a road.
As a road, wow.
As a road.
Wow.
But last 20 years, I think it's more than 20 years, there hasn't been enough frost. So even if we had our light cars today, we wouldn't dare to drive. Because we don't get this thick ice anymore.
Yeah, that would be dangerous.
Yeah, so is that temporary changing in the climate or what? We don't know. But it has affected our times, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know it will have effects in the future if we listen to the scientists,
yes.
which we are.
But people don't listen so much.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah, or they don't change their way of living. They just ignore. Because I think it's too difficult news for people to actually think of changing something in their lives. What does people do? Do they throw less garbage or use their car less or what? I don't know. What do you feel?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was going to ask what message you think people need to hear but I don't have the answer to that question either.
No.
What we're trying to do with this project is to tell kind of a smaller story, because a lot of what we hear about climate change are these like big numbers and big icebergs in Antarctica, and so we're trying to tell this sort of smaller story about a little mountain called Ok, and the changes that it's seen and that it's undergone.
How did people, when you didn't have stones and markers, how did people remember who was buried there? Just in...
From one people to another.
Yep.
And it's actually like that. My father's brother, he had cut the grass here in the churchyards for 63 years. Every summer. Wow. For 63 years. And when I was 20 something, I thought of, well, he's the only one who remembers or knows who is buried where.
Right.
So one day I went to him and we walked around, and I had this piece of paper, and he said, "Oh, here is this one," and I wrote down, and here is this one, and that's why we have it.
That's incredible.
So it often depends on one person.
Right.
If you continue the story.
People come here and wander through this area, and it's pretty well known. And I take the compliments to this area to talk about time and eternity and your place in the great chain of being.
If you were to create a ritual or some kind of memorial for a glacier that has passed, that we might say is dead, what sort of memorial or ritual would you imagine, or is that something that we would even want to do? Is that even appropriate?
Yeah, I think it is very important that we start to attend to that everything is connected and life is interconnected. It is also the question, who attends a ritual like this? Is it just for the sky, for God, or is it for the ground or nature, or is it for the memory of the glacier? I think it's very important that it should be also for humans who think a loss of a glacier is a real loss, and people who kind of have deep understanding and awareness of interconnectedness of life really feel the necessity of expressing the grief, and it is very important to remember that funerals and rituals of grief are not for the dead ones specifically; they are for the living.
Wait a minute, I just want to point out, because everyone keeps talking about death and funerals, that I'm still here. I guess because you humans don't live very long, you are always worrying about death and making a big deal of it. Just saying.
If my grandchild will become as old as my grandmother, the person that I will know and love the most in my life is still alive in the year 2130. I had my daughter do this calculation. I asked her, when is somebody that you love still alive? She did the math. It looks like 2170.
Wow.
2170 is a person that she will know personally and love personally, still alive. But we don't relate to our interaction to nature, resources, profit, corporations, politics. We don't relate in a real time scale, not even in the time scale that actually belongs to our inner circle. Glaciers are, of course, these mighty structures on our landscape. And actually, if Iceland was covered with glacier, like if it was evenly spread over the island, Iceland would be under 20 meters of ice.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's actually a very significant part of the mass of the island is ice and snow. But because it's packed in these mountains, we don't maybe feel them in our everyday life. But in Nordic mythology, the world started with a cow. It was a frozen cow. And from the udders of the cow came the 4 rivers that nourished the world. And the name of the cow is Auð Humla, or the Humla of prosperity. So suddenly it makes total sense. Of course, a frozen cow, it's the glacier. And because of global warming, you could say that this milking cow is dying.
Please touch the ice-cold walls of the cave. Smell the cold, moist air. The ice cave will lead you to a spiral staircase. It delivers you to dramatic multimedia exhibits and more details about our treasured glaciers.
What's the question?
How do glaciers affect you?
What glaciers will glacier? ER at the end.
And then everything around it was like a shield and an arrow. Like, I agree.
That's great.
I'm going to leave one for off.
Fine. I will admit that a little girl writing "Glaciers are life" is pretty moving. If nothing else, you humans are good manipulators. So what have we learned here? We have learned that some of you are exactly who I thought you were. But maybe humans are more complicated than I thought. Some of you are obviously trying to be smarter. And some of you care about me a little. So I'm going to say that maybe we got off on the wrong foot this past 1200 years or so. You should come and visit me. I'm not far from your city, and we can talk about what life will be like after the glaciers. For humans and for mountains.
Now I want to go down and see if I find any remnants of Oak Glacier and listen carefully whether I can hear it whisper the last sentences that it remembers from its history. Thank you.